Welcome to the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent.
Steve, welcome back to the Friday at 4 podcast series, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing very well. And you?
Yeah, great day, great weather day. It
Beautiful.
wasn't like yesterday.
Yeah, it was a good week. The temperature is kind of okay today, a little chilly. It was beautiful out yesterday, but
Yeah.
unfortunately we can't choose our weather. So
Wow. Sometimes it can, depending upon where we travel around the country, right?
well, that's a good point.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah. So let's get right to it because I think this episode, we're probably going to need a couple of episodes to get to this one.
Oh,
But
okay.
I think you and I are pretty good with keeping these things rolling. So maybe we'll get it done. But I want to start it out with some numbers and then talk about why I cover these numbers. And
Okay.
I think you know the topic we discussed shortly, the topic. So I think you got
Hmm.
a little bit of an idea of why we're doing what we're doing here. But I
Yep.
want to start it off with
Yep.
this. So let's say you wake up on a regular basis, you're late for work, you fly in to get ready, you can't make breakfast, you don't have your lunch together, you fly out the door, you're trying to rush to get to work on time, you stop off at Starbucks, you get that $6 coffee. Oh, you get a $6 muffin with it. Why not? I got to get to work. So now you spent $12, right? So you fly to work, you're at work. Oh, you don't have a lunch. So now lunchtime rolls around. Now you got to go and you got to get lunch, right? You're not going to DoorDash it. You're going to go down the street and pick it up. $15 lunch, right? So now the $15 lunch, right? You get home and you realize I just spent $27 today on breakfast and lunch. Now let's multiply that times 5 days a week, right? Oh, what is that? $135 a week, right? And you do it every day of the week for a month, that is $540 a month, right? Now we look at that and say, that's a lot of money, right? Wow, who could spend that kind of money, right? That's a lot of money. I saw this Instagram post where this girl was crying in her car. I felt bad for her because it's difficult to live, hard to live. And people were bashing her on both sides. One about suck it up, life's hard. And the other is like, oh, I feel your pain. And while, yes, we all feel that pain, right? There's two sides of this, right? One, you could say, well, I should be able to stop off and get a coffee and a muffin and get lunch every day. And on the other side, well, you should really watch what you spend because the economy is tough. It's hard to live sometimes. So you have to be frugal
Hmm.
with the way you live, right? So the reason I started it this way is because the topic today obviously is, or two sides of this, it's like,
Yep.
what do we do, right? Do we not live our lives or do we live our lives and who cares? Obviously, we have to care because if you want
Hmm.
to survive in life, you have to watch what you spend and spend the money on things that you should spend it on. But then there is the other side we talk about where you have to live a life, right? You want to eat the muffin, you want to get that Starbucks coffee, right? Have at it, buddy.
Ooh, interesting topic. Very interesting
Right.
topic. And I can absolutely see both sides, and we'll go
Yeah.
through this, and somewhere in there, I'll give you my multiple opinions on various things, as I always do, right? Um,
Right.
so there is no general statement. There is no perfect world. We all have our good days, our bad days. We all have our things that we want versus nice to haves. I get all that stuff. Um, but there, again, in my view, there can't be an all or nothing scenario. You
Yeah.
can't, again, my views, you can't go out every day and be at a Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, whatever it is. You can't go out every day for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, 7 days a week. Um, you can't go out and buy the fancy cars. Um, I'm talking fancy cars. You can't go out and, do the 3 week cruises 3 times a year. There is a limit on the amount of money we have to spend. And if you say, Okay, I run out of cash, but I have this little funny thing called a credit card. So you can now start using the credit card. But at some point down the road, the credit card maxes out. Then what do you do?
Mhm.
So you start paying minimum payments, which is the only thing you can do. But at some point, those minimum payments add up and up and up. And you could argue, worst case scenario, you get so in debt, you say, you know what? Pardon my French, screw it. And you declare bankruptcy. And you could do that. I did that, not for those reasons, but I did. But it takes 7 to 10 years to come out of it. And in that 7 to 10 years, your credit is in the toilet. You're not going to get the credit cards, or if you do, rates are going to be through the roof. You're not going to get the credit lines that you had. So where do you draw the line of doing everything for yourself every day? And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't. Where do you draw the line? Now, the other extreme says, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to make sure that I make my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner the day before. I don't have to spend a penny. I'm going to be frugal. I'm going to save everything, and I'm going to have tons of money in retirement and do my thing down the road. Danger with that is you don't have a life, and nobody knows what tomorrow's going to bring. Nobody knows the day you're going to graduate life. Nobody knows. And I'll give you the example. My parents, they did a little bit, but for the most part, they saved. And when my father got sick, yes, they had a decent amount of money. Again, for the times, obviously, in the 80s, 90s, whatever, which is more than it's worth today, but they had a chunk of money. But when he got sick, they had to use most of that retirement money for his 24/7 in-home care. So they saved and they saved and they saved and never got to use it for themselves to enjoy themselves. So the two ends, do you spend and don't care? Do you save and don't have a life? I'm of the opinion we need to be in the middle.
Balance, right?
You should, we only go around once, as far as I know, we only go around once. We don't know how long that trip around the sun is. So live a little bit, save a little bit. But the money that you save should be saved and earmarked for you. But if you're not here, earmark it for somebody else. Because if you don't earmark it for somebody else, with all the legal documents that go with it, that extra that's saved, it's going to go back to the government. And with all due respect, I don't want my money going to the government. I don't.
Not
I'm
going back to
sorry,
that.
that's my opinion, but I work my ass off. I want that money to go to who I want it to go to.
Right.
So there is no right or wrong. And
Yeah.
you could argue that with inflation and everything else and the tariffs that are going on and all the stuff, and I'm not making this political, but you can argue with all the stuff, technical terms, stuff that's going on, prices are going up. Salaries not going up as fast as the prices. So at some point, you're going to go broke sooner than you think. Do you want to be in that position? That's why I'm a firm believer in that middle of the road. And everybody's middle is different. I'm not saying you should do one or the other. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But
Farther one way on the extreme. I want
yeah,
to spend all my money. Further a little bit on the extreme of I need to save everything. And where we fall on that line, we're all different. We all know what we have and what
mhm,
we want to spend our money on. And I agree with you. I think you have to look at what are your what are your hobbies? What do you like to do, right?
mhm.
How expensive are the things that you want to do? And you can move that line in the middle of where it has to be placed on $6 coffee 3 days a week. It's not that bad. When you're considering I'm playing golf 3 days a week, that's going to cost me $150, every time I go out. That's a big difference,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. And again, we're not saying you shouldn't do anything, but
Right.
somewhere should be a moderation.
Yeah.
That in the ideal world, and again, I'm dreaming, but in the ideal world, the key, again, to me, I'm a finance guy, whatever else, but to me, figure out what you do, what you like. I'm not saying it, omit anything. Figure out what you do, what you like, and then prioritize it.
Right.
And take the money you have, assuming you want to spend it all. And that's okay. That's a decision. No worries. But figure out if you want to spend, I'm sorry, if you want to go golfing 3 days a week and you want to do 2 Starbucks a day, 7 days a week, figure out roughly how much that cost. Then take a look at what money you have available. So instead of doing 3 Starbucks 7 days a week, could you do 2 Starbucks 5 days a week? Instead of playing golf 3 times a week, could you play golf twice a week? You're still getting what you want. Maybe not to the extent, but you're still getting what you want, but you're not going into debt.
Mm. Yeah.
Then, and I post every day on LinkedIn, Instagram, and there's another one. And there's another one out there. I forget what it is already, but I post three
Facebook,
times.
Instagram.
Well, actually, Instagram feeds Facebook, so I really
Yeah,
put three out there.
gotcha.
But I post constantly all the time about have a middle ground somewhere. Spend what you want today, because again, we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. But if that tomorrow goes long, which we hope it does, you're still going to have money down the road. Because if you spend everything today, tomorrow, next week, next month, and you don't save anything for down the road, when you stop working or the income dries up, how do you live? Because quite frankly, when the money gets tight and you ask friends and family for money, most of them are going to say no.
Who are you again?
Who are you again? Who are you again? I
Right.
didn't know you for 10 years. Now you want
I didn't
money from
know
me?
you. Right. Now I know you.
But if you're in that position, certainly, there's a big thing with baby boomers that they're afraid of running out of money in retirement, and that's a valid concern.
Sure
Because
is. Yeah.
if the money runs out and you can't fend for yourself, the plan you're going to have is the one the government gives you. And trust me, I've seen enough people, including my parents, who got the government's plan. And again, pardon my language, but the government's plan sucks. You
Yeah.
don't want it. You
Yeah.
don't. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do? And then again, I'm not talking you, and this isn't a general statement. What are you going to do to, if you want to, again, choice is yours, to balance somewhere towards the middle? You could be one way or the other, but towards the middle from the two extremes. Spend today, enjoy yourself,
Right.
but also
Yeah.
save something for down the road. You never know. You never know.
Yep. I think one thing that's a big concern, and it even includes my kids,
Hmm.
when we turned 18, we were able to move out of the house and be on our own and live. You can't do that today. You're 18, you're living at home and you're 40 still with your parents if you're lucky enough that they're still alive.
Yep.
And and it sucks when you have to tell people, well, no, you can't just go out and move on your own right now because you
Hmm.
can't afford it. And I think that's part of what was happening with that video I saw on Instagram with that girl.
Mm.
These young kids today want to be successful. They want to
Yeah.
live on their own. They want to do good things. And they struggle when they hear and see that it's just impossible to do.
Hmm.
And while we just had the example of $540 a month just to eating breakfast and lunch daily
Right.
is damn near half of what you would spend in rent.
Right.
So technically, if you did watch what you spend, you probably could live on your own,
Hmm.
but
Right.
only you know that because only you know your finances. You know where you stand with your money. And if you don't know where you stand with your money, the guy right here, Steve Ken, is the guy to talk to about it to help get your
Yeah.
finances in order.
Thanks.
Because I think that's very crucial to know daily what you have and where
Yeah.
your money is going tomorrow.
Yeah.
Correct? I mean,
Yep.
you really need to stay on top of it to know how you're going to live
Right.
from day to day, right? Not just month to month or 6 months to 6 months,
Yep.
right?
Yep. You, and I've told this story countless times. I left corporate in 12, opened my own business in 2013, and it failed miserably. And I had no money. I went bankrupt at 56 or so. I moved back home to my parents, 56 years old with my son. We moved back home. Not by any stretch what I wanted to do, but I had no money. So now you get kids coming out of college who have this huge debt from the student loans
I'm a
who
college, right? Yeah.
can't even find a job, let alone one that they can live on and repay a loan. So they're moving, to your point, they're moving back home. Not what they want from a whole bunch of reasons. It's not what anybody wants, but
Yeah.
that's their only choice. They want to be successful, and I hope they all are at some point. But until you get to that point, you got to make do. It could be moving home. It could be having one, two, three, four roommates when you love to be living alone. There are options out there, and you got to be flexible. And sometimes your dreams, keep dreaming. Don't ever give up on your dreams. But instead of saying, I'm going to make my dream come true next year, it may be 2 years, it may be 3 years, it may be 5 years. Don't stop dreaming, but you may not be. So if you ever play, you ever played the game Monopoly, right? So you start on the go and you go around the board. And when you hit the community chest or whatever it was, there's this little card that says, go directly to jail. Do not pass go. And that's
Did I
almost
collect
like life.
$200?
It's almost like life. You come out
Yeah.
of college, you want to get a job, there's none around, or you can't make enough money, and you feel like you're in jail. You're going
Yeah.
backwards and you're on a holding pattern instead of moving forward and going around the board. It's a really nasty feeling, but more and more people of all ages are experiencing that. Layoffs now are ridiculously high. AI
Yeah.
is taking people's jobs. Yes, it's creating some, but it's not creating as many as are being let go.
What I like
And
about us is you're what? You're close to a boomer, and I'm Gen X. We've seen how the times have changed,
mhm,
and it's difficult for us to sit here and watch because, as I tell my kids, man, when I was 18, I was out on my own, doing my own thing, and loving life, enjoying times, and
mhm,
in your 20s, I had my own townhome and my own car and a truck and a four-wheeler and trailer and, was doing all these great things. But when you're 18 today, man, you're like, how do I live? And the world is so different than just 20 years ago or 25 years ago that it's almost sickening to see that and heartbreaking to see that these young kids coming out of college have no way to find a job and no way to support themselves other than staying in mom and dad's basement until they figure it out. And it's sad, right? I mean, it's really sad that these younger generations are living like that because there's so much to life out here that's so awesome, but they don't get a chance to experience it because, well, they're stuck, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So, my advice is really look at what you're making currently. How can you balance having fun in your life, but still being able to be responsible with your money? it's a fine line, right? And I crossed that fine line a couple of times in the past, in the past couple of months where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to have fun. And then I went, well, the bills need to get paid. So you got to do what you got to do to make that
Mhm.
line come back in the middle so you can balance your life with your money, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you like, I understand my finances. So if you understand your finances, you understand that you can make it work, and that's my advice is really sit down and look at what you have. And again, like I said, I'll say it again, Steve's a guy. If you don't understand it, reach out to Steve. He will definitely look at your stuff and say, yeah, you can do it. You can't do it. You should do this. You really shouldn't do that. And let's do this. Right?
So, a couple of thoughts. One is I want to thank you, by the way, for saying to me that I am almost a boomer when I am. So thank you for making me younger than I truly am. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
you're
Okay.
welcome.
But I'll pay you off later. No,
Right.
but what a lot of people, and this has been happening for a while, what a lot of young people are doing coming out of school. Well, first of all, if they go to college, some are now going to trade school because there's a huge, huge shortfall of electricians, plumbers, auto mechanics, and those types of professions, which I think are great. I mean, I think they're amazing. And looking back, if I knew, it's one of those, if I knew then what I know now type stuff, I would have probably gone into a trade school and not the route I took. 100% if I knew then what I know now. Um, but what a lot of people are doing is they're coming out of school, whatever type, and they're not getting a job. They're looking to open their own businesses and becoming an entrepreneur because they can set the tone of what they do. They can set the hours they work. They can set who they talk to. They can do what they want. And when it works, their creativity can give them a lot of money.
Yeah.
Understanding, unless you get lucky, it's still going to take time.
Yeah.
But
And
it,
you beat me to it, right? Because I was going to say, I always throw caution to the wind with the younger people when they talk about wanting to be their own boss, because
Mhm.
I always let them know that it's not always greener on the side of
Mm,
entrepreneurship. You really got to understand it.
right.
You really have to have really tough
Mhm.
skin
Yeah.
to get through it because we struggle. We continue to struggle, and
Hmm.
you're going to struggle because you don't know where your money's coming from day to day.
Correct.
So you really got to be careful, pick the right path, but you have to understand
Mhm.
both sides of it, right? Because it's all not
Right.
rosy.
Correct. The
Yeah,
the well, I shouldn't say the big one of the differences between now and the 70s, 80s, 90s is now you come out of school, if you go to school, and you can look up on the internet different industries, success stories, failures, why they were successful, why they failed, how to do a whole bunch of things. So if you open a business, you're not going in blind.
yeah.
You at least have the format, the structure, you have all that stuff. Whether you choose to follow it, it's up to you, of course.
Oh,
But
totally
you can
story.
see examples of how and why some people made it and some people didn't.
Back in the day, you
And
had to go to the library. That's all you got your information. You had to research
right,
what happens. Today,
right.
it's at your fingertips. You
Yeah.
can get the
Now
answer
you
within
open up, yeah.
seconds.
You open
You
up
know,
Chat GPT, you open up Claude. I just got into Claude, by the way, and I'm like I'm learning it. I'm at the very bottom of the learning curve, but I've started and it's pretty cool. Um, but I will never claim it as all as mine. I'm using it more to give me ideas and then I'll go out and do my thing.
right,
But there are ways you can get information now better, faster, cheaper than you can if you had to go to the library and do
right.
research. And so there are differences. Um, sorry about that, but there are differences. And yeah, you got to do something to make yourself stand out. And being one of the pack of, my high school graduating class was 4,000. I'm sorry, was 4,000 people in the school. There were 1,000 people in my high school graduating class. 1,000 people. It's ridiculous.
don't even couldn't tell you how many I graduated with because it was such a blur. I have no idea. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
200? I don't know.
Two. Yeah. But there's a lot of things that can be done, but to follow the crowd, especially in today's times, will get you what the crowd has, which is not where you want to be. So it's almost necessary. I don't want to use the word required, but it almost is to do something different, to maybe try your own business. Or if you can find a job, start something on the side. So you have two things going at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, my advice is always, what are you passionate about? Think about the things that get you excited when you think about them, you talk about them. That's what I did
Hmm.
for years.
Right.
I'm learning what excites me, man, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm following what excites me. I had a conversation today about it.
Right.
It's like I'm doing what I love. And
Hmm.
that's what's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Might
Yeah.
not be perfect. I'm struggling. The money's not there yet, but
Hmm.
I'm loving what I do, and I'm going to continue until I make it.
Good. Good. And
Yeah,
again, the important thing to consider is the time. So do
yep,
we have enough time?
yeah,
Um, can't rush things.
yeah,
Can't rush things because if you rush things, you may not think it through. You may gloss over something because you don't realize it. Um, yeah. So it's that's why I always like, certain things you say, certain things I say. Find a mentor. If you find something you're passionate about, find a mentor. Go to work for somebody if you have to for a month, 2 months, 3 months, either minimum pay or no pay. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but that's the way you're going to find out when you see what's really going on. Is
yeah,
that something you really want to pursue or not? Before you jump in with both feet in the deep end, is it something you really want? It may sound nice, but is it in reality, is it what you want?
yeah. So true, right? I think everybody coming out of school. I mean, you're young. You're 18. You're coming out of school. You're on top of the world. You got a lot to look forward to. I really would like to see these younger generations really take a step back and put some thought into, okay, you don't have it all figured out,
Hmm.
but what can I do to keep me moving until
Right,
I figure it out? I
right.
wasn't until my 40s when I figured out, oh, hey,
Mm.
I'm loving what I'm doing. Hey, this is great. Let me continue. Let me do my own business. Let me be an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we get really tied up in that we have to be a certain structure, a certain way.
Hmm.
That holds us back because now we feel like I have to be a certain way. I have to go to college. I have to get a degree. I have to be in that job, get married, have kids, get the big house, and then retire. Well,
Hmm.
that didn't work out for me. I'm like Dory. I'm still swimming in the ocean trying to figure it out and stay my head afloat. And that's
But
okay, right? I mean,
yeah,
it is what it is.
yeah. But
Yeah.
that's the way we're told it has to be.
Yeah.
And we're told that from a very young age. So that's our mindset is go to school, go to college, go get a job.
Yep. And the final thought I want to tell people is you might not have it all figured out now. Don't focus on that. Just focus on living every day the best you can. That's all you can do,
Yep.
you know?
And I'm going to say you have a dream, keep chasing it. Don't
Yeah,
give
right.
up on the dream.
Yeah,
Nobody knows more than you what you want, what you're
yeah,
thinking, what your end game is. Don't let somebody ruin your dreams. Stay true
right.
to what you want.
Yeah. One post, one person, one day could change your entire life.
Yep.
And I'm a big believer in
Yep.
that. I've been
Yep.
there, and I want to
Yeah.
make sure people know, and this is your industry.
Hmm.
Money comes, money goes.
Yep.
It happens. Sometimes we have it all, sometimes we have nothing. But it's
Yep.
how we deal with it and get through it. We just
Correct.
have to keep going.
Correct. Correct.
No, again, I'm going to say this will be a third time, a fourth time saying it, 516-727-2294. Reach out to Steve. I'm telling you, he knows what he's talking about and he can help you with any financials. I
Yeah.
know it.
Thank you, Chuck. And Chuck,
Yeah.
410-935-6132 helps businesses see what's out there, helps them understand from an independent perspective what they're doing right, what they may need to tweak a little bit for their own survival and profit and longevity and all those things that go with it. So Chuck's your guy. Check him out if you have a business that you want some expert guidance in. He's your guy.
Absolutely, man. Steve, what a great episode. I think that topic really,
Yeah.
really hit. And I hope people really take a second to think about what we talked about today. And are you one of those people that's leaving work late and saying, oh, I'll just swing and get a coffee real quick? Or, hey, let me DoorDash my lunch today, spending $40 for a $15 meal,
Right. Right.
And if you're doing that, maybe you can slow down a little bit to save yourself some money so you're not so stressed every day worrying about how you're paying rent at the end of the month,
Right.
That's
Well,
my
that's the
advice,
key. That's the
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, sometimes, again, we talked about this. Look at your finances daily. Open that bank account. Look at
I
what you
do.
have. Right. Can I
I do.
spend that $27 today? No, I can't. Peanut butter and jelly it is. And I've been there
Yeah.
where I made peanut butter and jelly for many a days in a week, And I'm probably going to do it next week because I want to, So yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, thanks again
All
for
right.
coming on. It's been a great
No.
episode,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it
I
was.
hope you had a great week. Hope you have a great Friday, rest of Friday,
Me
great
too.
weekend. Whatever you got planned this weekend, just keep going and I don't know, loving life.
It is. It's good life. Live it the
Yeah,
best you can.
it is what we make it, right? And I think if we just
Mhm.
take a step back and realize I don't have to spend $27 today, that I'm going to be okay tomorrow.
Mhm.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We ain't going to worry about it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All
Yep.
right. Well, let's wrap this thing up, man. It's Friday at 4 because.
It's 4 o'clock somewhere.
Absolutely. Dave, thanks again for coming
You
on. It's
got
been
it,
a
Chuck.
great,
My
great time. I
pleasure.
always love these podcasts. Have a great rest of the day, man. We'll
You
chat
too.
soon.
You got it. Thanks, everyone. Take care, Chuck.
See you, Steve. See you,
Take
everybody.
care.
Have a great day, man.
You got it. Bye.
Bye.
You've been watching the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent. Thanks for watching.